Okay, so we'll start the class now. So yung agenda natin today is we'll just finish the rest of Module 3. So I think short na lang yung natitira sa Module number 3. Short discussion na lang. After that, siguro mga after 30 minutes, because I'll have to prepare pa the Google Forms for your prelim exam. So you're gonna take the prelim examination. I hope you studied, you reviewed well to prepare for the prelim, no? But I think kaya nyo naman kasi madali lang yung exam tapos see pa lang naman yung coverage, no? So the first 3 modules, no? Okay, so I'm sharing my screen, my PowerPoint. Do you see it?
Yes po.
Yes po.
Okay. Sige. So let's discuss the rest of the topics. No? So yung na-cover natin last time ay until the taxation regime for resident citizen, non-resident citizen, and resident alien. No? So the next one ay tungkol kay non-resident aliens. But this time we have engaged in trade or business. So it's important that you have learned yung diniscuss natin last week because pagdating dito kay non-resident alien engaged in trade or business, so the taxation is actually the same. Okay? So the taxation is actually the same. No? So same manner, no? The computation that we have discussed, so everything, so the same. Now, the only difference is when the non-resident alien who is not engaged in trade or business earned an income in the Philippines, na siya ay cinematographic film owner. No? So siguro, you can imagine na ito yung sa case ng mga foreign movies. No? So nililist out dito yan sa Philippines. No? So for example, Hollywood. Let's say, pinalabas sa SM Cinemas. No? Okay, tapos, the film owner is an individual. Tapos siya ay non-resident alien. Okay? So in that case, engage siya in trade or business as long as na-meet yung requirements na diniscuss natin dati. Okay? So ang taxation sa kanya ay 25%. So that is based on the taxable gross income. Sorry. Okay, so the taxation is based on the taxable gross income. So ibig sabihin wala siyang deduction. Okay? So wala siyang deduction. No? You don't deduct expenses. So it's the gross income that is subject to tax. So 25% yung tax doon. And the taxation ay in the form of final tax. So therefore, ang gagawin dito is in the form of final withholding tax. Okay? So just imagine this one. Okay. So just imagine this situation. No? So let's say si SM, meron siyang bayarin na 1 million pesos dun sa non-resident alien, engaged in trade or business, para sa Hollywood movies na pinalabas niya at meron siyang license na ipalabas sa kanyang Philippine Cinemas. No? Okay, so kung 1 million yung kailangan niyang bayaran, paano itatax yun ng BIR? Okay, so what do you think? paano siya itatax ng BIR? So we know that the tax rate that would apply is 25%. Okay? So paano siya itatax ng BIR? So take note, yung taxpayer, non-resident alien siya, di ba? So ibig sabihin hindi ito registered sa BIR. Okay? Ang mangyayari lang is SM will withhold 25%. So that's 250,000. So instead of paying the entire 1 million to that non-resident alien, babawasan ni SM yun ng 250,000, 25%. So ang i-remit lang ni SM doon ay 750,000. So SM has the responsibility, the obligation to remit yung tax na 25%. So that's correct, Christine. 250,000 to BIR. So SM will be constituted as withholding agent. Okay? So dun sa 1 million na bayarin niya, dun mo i-multiply yung mismong tax rate na 25%. Kasi the taxation again is based on the taxable gross income. Okay? So, hindi yun dapat bawasan ng expenses, okay? Kasi gross income yung basis nun, no? Okay? Then, yung income na yun, hindi na kailangan mag-file ng tax return ng non-resident alien. Kasi nga, na-subject na yun to final withholding tax. If the withholding tax is final, that's it. Hindi na siya i-declare pa later on sa tax return. Okay? So in this situation, ang required na mag-file ng tax return at mag-remit sa BIR ay si SM. That makes sense because the income earner in this case is not only an alien individual, but also an unresident. So, okay? Hindi mo siya talaga mapupwersa na pumunta ka ng BIR, okay? It would be difficult pa, no? So, ang tax regime natin doon, kung sino yung magbabayad, siya mag-withhold. Okay? So, therefore, the tax is in the form of final withholding tax. Okay? So, yan yung taxation for non-resident alien engaged in trade or business. So, it's basically the same, except lang kung that individual earned an income as a cinematographic film owner. Okay? Now, for passive income, for royalty, so the same tax, 25%, final yan. Then for books, literary works, and musical compositions, so the tax ay 10%, lower. No? For prizes, pag exceeding 10,000, 20% final withholding tax. Otherwise, subject siya to graduated income tax. For winnings, sa lotto, exempt yung 10,000. More than that, if it is more than that, 20% siya. Final withholding tax. Other types of winnings are 20% final withholding tax. Okay? So does this look familiar to you? Yung sa passive income? Is it similar to what we have discussed last week? Okay? So that is similar. Huh? So mostly the taxation for passive income ay final withholding tax, except for this one na nakagraduated. Okay? So for interest, okay, so sa bank deposit, that's 20% final withholding tax. Pag long term, okay, so pag long term, exempt siya, di ba? So held for 5 years. Pero kung merong pretermination na nangyari, then it was only held for less than 5 years. Okay? So 4 years to less than 5 years, may tax na siya. Kasi ang ini-encourage lang ng gobyerno ay yung long-term savings. Okay? So kaya 5 years or more yung exempt. But if ever you pre-terminate, mayroon na siyang tax. Okay? Pero the longer mo siyang hinawakan, the lower the tax. Okay? The shorter ang holding period, the higher the tax. No? So 12% and 20%. So similar, no? Depende sa holding period. Now, pag sa FCDU, ito yung Foreign Currency Deposit Unit ng bangko. This is exempt. Okay? So for dividends, the tax is 20%. Higher siya. Okay? So I hope medyo familiar na. No? We have discussed similar taxation regime for this one last meeting. Capital gains, so for shares na hindi listed sa stock market, PSE, so 15% final tax. So net capital gains on basis. Then for listed sa PSE, so ito yung sa PSE, exempt siya. Okay? Pero meron nga lang diyang stock transaction tax, which is not an income tax, but percentage tax, no? A business tax actually. Then for real property, so ito yung taxation, 6%, whichever is higher, yeah, okay, between the selling price and the fair market value. Pag sa gobyerno ka nagbenta, you have the option to be taxed using the graduated income tax. Pag binenta mo ang residence mo, taxable din yan, but subject to certain conditions, pwede ka mag-file for exemption. And for other capital assets, meaning other than shares, okay, other than shares and other than real property, so subject to graduated income tax. Pero may rule dyan na tinatawag na holding period. Last discussion, we did not really discuss yung details nito because I told you that we'll have a separate dedicated module for dealings in properties, sa shares, sa real property, and other capital assets. Okay? For now, just learn itong nandito sa slide natin. Okay? About capital gains. So there's what we call capital gains tax. No? So we'll discuss that separately. Okay, so this time the taxation regime for non-resident aliens, this time not engaged in trade or business. So I hope you're ready for the next part. Konti pa lang naman na-discuss natin. Okay, ang taxation sa kanya in general ay 25%. Okay, so the rate is 25%. Ito medyo different yung taxation nito kasi pag not engaged in trade or business, lahat ay itatax, okay, at the rate of 25%. Now, what do you think, class? Paano ang taxation dito? Is it in the form of final withholding tax or graduated? Ano sa tingin nyo ito? Is this graduated or final withholding tax? Okay, which one of the two? Okay, so Veronica said final withholding tax. Okay, Alisa said graduated. Remy, final. Okay, so just imagine that yung income earner dito is a non-resident alien. So wala siyang establishment dito sa Pilipinas. Not engaged in trade or business. Okay? So pahirapan yan kung magpa-file siya mismo sa BIR. Kaya ang sagot, ang sistema dito is in the form of final withholding tax. Okay? So hindi siya graduated. Okay? So yan, no? So therefore, sinong may responsibility na mag-remit sa BIR ng 25% na final withholding tax? The non-resident alien or whoever is paying from the Philippines? That's correct, Veronica, no? So whoever is paying from the Philippines. So withhold niya, ibawas niya, okay? Then the same should be remitted to BIR. Okay? So ganun yung sistema sa kanya. That makes sense naman, no? Otherwise, kung hindi ganun ang gagawin ng gobyerno natin, baka hindi magbayad ng tax at mga non-resident aliens na to. Kasi there's no way for the government to reach them, kumbaga. Okay? Kaya, ano sa tingin nyo? Should you advise, kunwari, you're practicing na, your client that they should be careful when they do foreign payments? Kasi normal lang naman sa business na may babayaran, okay? Pero, do you think kung ang payment ay to foreign nationals, to foreign, countries or corporations, foreign currency, dapat ba mas extra careful ang mga nagbabayad? Kunwari, ikaw si SM, yung diniscuss natin kanina, di ba? Okay? What do you think? Should they exercise more precaution ba or controls in these kinds of payments? What do you think? Yes or no? So the answer is yes. You know why? Sino nga habulin ng BIR if BIR finds out na si SM pala hindi nag-withhold doon sa payments niya sa mga Hollywood producers? Sino nga habulin ng BIR? Is it SM or yung nasa Hollywood? The non-resident? It's SM. Okay? So, hindi pwedeng sabihin ni SM, ako na nga nagbayad. Wala naman akong income doon. In fact, ang meron ako expense kasi siya nagbayad, di ba? Pero hindi, kasi ang responsibility na mag-withhold ay naka SM. Okay? So, that's why it's common in practice na when your client has foreign currency payments, they seek advice from us. No? Would there be tax exposures? No? So, ganun siya. Otherwise, the consequence kasi could be really big. No? Imagine 25% ng 1 million, paano kung 100 million yung binayaran mo, di ba? Walang pakialam sa BIR. 25% of that, di ba? Plus the penalties. Okay? So, yeah. Okay, may exception lang to, class. The exceptions are the following. So, sa capital gains, not listed sa PSE, 15% rather. For listed sa PSE, exempt, okay, exempt, subject na lang siya to business tax. We'll discuss this separately. No? Real property, so same thing nung diniscuss natin kanina. And interest income from foreign currency deposit system is exempt, being non-resident alien. Okay? So again, for properties, shares, real property, we will discuss them in a separate module. Kasi medyo mahaba yun at mahirap actually, kaya that's not included here. Okay? Now, let's see yung exempt from income tax. So number one, a possible exempt, senior citizens, but only in certain cases. Minimum wage earners. Okay? Then those that are granted exemptions under the international agreements. Okay? Tandaan nyo, class, ang mga senior citizens natin, okay, mga resident yan ng Pilipinas, who is at least 60 years old, required sila magbayad ng income tax. Okay? Required sila magbayad ng income tax. Except kung minimum wage earners sila. Their income is exempt. Yung income nila is not exceeding 250,000. Remember, we have that rule sa graduated table, di ba, na pagka magko-compute ka ng taxable income, ililess mo yung 250 kasi 250 is exempt, di ba? Zero ang rate mo. Okay, exemption, however, does not extend to income subject to final tax. Okay, like interest income from deposit or dividends in capital gains tax. So for example, si grandfather mo or si grandmother mo, meron silang deposit kay Banco de Oro. And it earned interest income. However, di ba, pagka credit nun sa account nila, meron ang withholding tax yun, which is 20%. So your grandparents cannot complain to BDO that na hindi dapat bawasan yun ang withholding tax kasi exempt sila. Hindi covered ng exemption yung final withholding tax sa passive income and also for the capital gains. Okay? So ganun din pag nagbenta sila ng real property nila, which is a capital asset. So subject to 6% final tax. Okay? So exempted lang kung minimum wage earner si senior citizen or the income is not exceeding 250,000. But generally, senior citizens are required to pay income tax. Now let's discuss minimum wage earners. Okay, ito yung employee or a worker who is paid the statutory minimum wage, SMW. Okay? So, pag related sa kanyang compensation, kasi dito yan referring to, dito siya referring. This is exempt. Okay? And it is only fair and equitable. No? It's only fair and equitable na ang mga minimum wage earners are given exemptions for the minimum wage that they earn. Kasi, syempre, for subsistence unit, kumbaga just for living expenses, yung amount na minimum wage. So, might as well, they have to enjoy that minimum wage in its entirety. No? As a whole. Huwag nang bawasan pa ng gobyerno, di ba? So, kumbaga maliit na nga lang na sahod, minimum wage eh. Kakaltasan pa ng gobyerno. So, it's almost inhuman, kumbaga, di ba? So, it's only fair that minimum wage amounts are exempt from income tax. Okay? However, pagka yung minimum wage earner, meron siyang negosyo, o kaya he or she is exercising yung kanyang profession, so meron siyang income doon, that's no longer covered by the exemption. That is subject to graduated income tax. Okay? So let's say in my case, for example, I'm a partner in AMU, an accounting firm. No? So I'm exercising my profession there. But I'm also employed sa isang company where I earn the minimum wage amount. Doon sa kumpanya na yon, exempt yung wage ko doon. No? But my income from the accounting firm is subject to income tax. Okay? So separate, no? Separate. Ganon din yung passive sa capital gains niya. So subject siya to final tax. Okay? Anong tingin nyo dito, class? When you say exempt ang mga minimum wage earners, sinong tinutukoy na exempt? Does it apply to the person or just to the wage, which is minimum, which is the minimum? So when you say exempt ang mga minimum wage earners, it's not referring to the person, it's referring only to the wage, no? Na minimum amount, that exemption. Okay? Hindi porket minimum wage earner ka, all types of income that you can earn or you may earn from your business, kung meron ka pang ibang endeavor, from your passive and capital gains, exempted ka na, ano pa, siniswerte, parang ganun, di ba? So, hindi. It only refers to the minimum wage. Okay? So, anong napansin nyo sa exemption? Is it specific lang? And it's very restricted? The answer is yes. So, remember the rule sa taxation, exemptions are not favored, di ba, sa batas natin. Exemptions are, in fact, strictly construed against the taxpayer. Okay? Exemptions are not encouraged by the government. And whoever wants to avail, he who wants to avail an exemption should really show the legal basis for the exemption. Okay? So, and it only refers to minimum wage. So therefore, stricto ang interpretation nun. Kung exempt ang minimum wage, therefore it only refers to minimum wage and nothing else. That's how you interpret the tax exemptions. Okay? And take note of that because you're gonna use it sa iba pang mga topics natin. So tax exemptions are strictly construed, strictly interpreted, and it is against the taxpayer. The government does not favor it because exemptions are actually a loophole, a leak, kumbaga. It's a leakage sa revenue ng government. Because we know that taxes are the lifeblood of the government. Okay? So, yan. No? Kaya sa exemption talaga, bago mag-grant yan, bago maisabatas yan, katakot-takot na discussion sa Congress. No? Talagang kung walang economic sense, hindi ka bibigyan ng exemption. If you do not deserve it, hindi ka bibigyan ng exemption. Okay? Ng law-making body ng Pilipinas. Okay? Okay, so ito yung current minimum wage, but I don't know kung current pa rin siya. I was checking kanina. May iba, dapat nang i-update dito. So, you just check the internet. Ang minimum wage natin sa Pilipinas, hindi siya single amount for the entire Philippines. It's based on per region siya. So this is the illustration. So Mr. CSO, a minimum wage earner, works for a company. He's not engaged in business, nor has any other source of income other than his employment. For 2018, he earned a total compensation income of 135,000. So the taxpayer contributed to the SSS, PhilHealth, PAC-EBIG, no? Home Development Mutual Fund, 5,000 pesos. At meron siyang 13th month pay ng 11,000. So magkano ang tax liability niya? Ang sagot ay wala. Because the taxpayer is exempt. Because he is a minimum wage earner. So the computation of the taxable income is the total compensation income of 135,000 less the mandatory contributions, less the non-taxable benefit. Okay? So yan. But this is not subject to tax. Okay? This is exempt. Okay? Now, the following year, aside from his basic wage, meron daw siyang additional pay. Take note, additional pay of 140,000 consisting of overtime pay, 80,000, night shift differential, hazard pay, holiday pay. Kasama pa rin ba sa wage itong 140,000 na to? Ano sa tingin niyo, class? Okay. Na-earn niya ang 140,000 na yon through what? Employment, business, profession. Passive income ba yon? So what do you think? Saan related yung 140,000? Employment, business profession, passive income, capital gain. Answer? Related pa rin sa employment. So, tama. Part pa rin siya ng wage. At minimum wage pa rin siya. Nagkaroon lang siya ng additional pay because of overtime, night shift, hazard, holiday. Okay? So, minimum wage earner pa rin siya dito. So therefore, exempt pa rin entirely. Okay, so from the total compensation income, add mo to, deduct mo tong mga contributions, yan. Pero, income mo pa rin siya as a minimum wage earner. Part pa rin yan ng wage mo. So therefore, the entire 259,000 is still exempt from income tax. Okay? Yeah. So the taxpayer is tax exempt as an MWE. The statutory minimum wage as well as the holiday pay, yung mga yan, are specifically exempted from income tax under the law. And the law is specific about it, kaya exempt pa rin sila. Now, the last that may be exempted, yung mga granted under international agreements. So, compensation income of Philippine nationals and individuals employed by foreign governments, embassies, diplomatic missions, and international organizations situated in the Philippines. This is under the principle of international committee. Okay, mga diplomat, no? Ano? Yan. Ang meron tayo sa last part is just illustrations and computations. Okay? We have already done these computations last meeting. So I just wanted to refresh your mind how the computations are done. You know? So Pag compensation income, you start with gross compensation income. Then you deduct itong mga exclusions na to. SSS, GSIS, Pag-ibig, PhilHealth. These are mandatory contributions. So pag may 13th month, in other benefits, dagdag mo siya. Yun nga lang, ililess mo yung exclusion, which is the 90,000, which is the maximum. No? Does this table feel familiar na sa inyo? Good. Okay, so good. So we've done some computations last week, okay? But I suppose it's still good to have this pro forma, kumbaga, ng computation. No? Take note, sa compensation income, hindi ka nagma-minus ng expenses. What you're deducting are actually exclusions lang. And exclusions are different from expenses. You'll learn that sa ibang topic. Magkaiba ang exclusion sa expenses. Okay? Sa compensation, walang binabawas na expenses. Ang binabawas mo lang are exclusions. And exclusions refer to the mandatory contributions to SSS, GSIS, PhilHealth, Pag-ibig. And of course, yung sa mga bonus na ang maximum ay 90,000. These are not expenses, these are just exclusions. No expenses are deducted from compensation income. Okay? So ano sa tingin nyo? Paano tinatax ang compensation income? At the gross or net amount? It's at the gross amount. Very good. Okay? So the only thing that you deduct are not expenses, but are exclusions. So that's for compensation. No? Right. Take note of that kasi malaki ang chance na in the future you might be involved in doing payroll, okay, or auditing payroll. Yeah. If not doing the payroll itself, no, that you're auditing the payroll, or you're maybe asked by your client, magkano tax sa ganitong compensation. Okay? So, yeah. Then, for graduated, ito yung sa business income na, no? Or profession. Gross income, allowable deduction. So, yan. Yung tax rate. This is for business income or profession. Yeah. Minus yung tax withheld. Tax withheld are advance payments of income tax. So if you made advance payment of income tax, then you deduct whatever you have paid already from your tax due to arrive at the still payable amount. Yeah. Okay. So what do you think naman dito, class? Pag business, profession, ano ang taxation? Gross amount or net? Naka-gross ba siya or net? So that's also correct, Alisa and everyone. Taxable income usually refers to net amount. Okay? So here, mina-minus yung mga expenses. Yung tinutukoy na itemized dito at optional deductions, this refer to expenses. So unlike compensation income, business income and income from profession are entitled to be reduced by expenses. Fair lang naman kasi ang negosyo at ang pag-exercise mo ng profession, for you to generate income from these endeavors, you'd really have to incur expenses related to your business or profession. Pero pag compensation, wala naman kasi employee ka lang. You're not the business itself. Whatever you incur related to your employment, that's personal and not related to business. Okay? Pero, pag purely self-employed, di ba? You're entitled to 8% preferential tax rate. Na ang taxation mo nito, yung receipts mismo, yung sales mismo, revenue ito, di ba? Question class. Is this the same as gross income? Ano sa tingin niyo? Yung top line ko ba dito, ito? Is this the same as gross income? What's your answer? Is it the same as the gross income that we have been referring to? Is this gross income? Is this gross income? Answer in the chat box. Technically, no. Kasi gross income, teka, labas. Gross income refers to, ito kasing gross income, revenue minus cost of sales or cost of service. So hindi siya gross income, it's the revenue itself. So it's not the same. Okay? If you're using the 8% preferential tax rate. Then you add the non-operating income, then you have the gross taxable income. Then the allowed deduction, 250. Ito rin yung pwede mong i-minus if you're using the preferential tax rate. You multiply by 8%, then deduct the tax withheld kung meron man. Okay? You'll arrive at the payable amount. Pag mix naman, then you have the compensation, less the non-taxable, then 8%. This is not correct. Tanggalin natin to. Then for business, using 8%, gross sales receipts, non-operating income, so taxable business income, 8%. When you combine them, ito siya. So be familiar with the format, no? Computation. So we have some illustration dito. Ang tanong sa number 1, how much is income tax payable? Yan. Pag silent yung problem class, you have to use graduated kasi yun yung default na tax. No? So we'll use graduated for number 1. So number 2, you will use the 8%. Okay? So meron siyang gross sales. So let's start with that. Minus the cost of sales. Minus the business expenses. Rental income, however, this is net already. Net siya ng 5%. Expanded withholding tax. You'll learn about it sa ibang topic. So hindi pa final yan. This is just an advance tax payment. Advance lang to. Hindi pa siya final, ha? Hindi siya final withholding tax, but expanded withholding tax. So therefore, kung net yan ng 5%, the amount should be divided by 95% for you to get the true rental income, which is 325,000. Ito, winnings, royalty, mga passive income to. Yan, royalty, dividend, interest, okay? So, these are subject lahat sa final withholding tax. Then meron kang creditable or expanded na 65,000. So bukod dito sa 5%, dalawa yung expanded mo. These are advanced tax payments. And you made advanced tax payments pa na quarterly tax payments. So ganito siya. This is the taxable income, 1,050,000. And if you compute for the tax due using the graduated rate, you'll get 205,000. Yun nga lang, you have to deduct the expanded or the CWT, the quarterly tax payments. Yan. So therefore, ang tax payable mo na lang dito would be the 57,500. Okay? So ang sagot dito sa number 1 is letter C. Others are other incomes na subject to final withholding tax should no longer be included. So just an illustration, okay? Then for the last one, 8% ang tax rate. So ang basis mo nito is the gross sales and the other income. Then less the allowed deduction of 250. So times 8%, that's the tax due, minus the CWT and quarterly tax payments. So the answer is letter A this time. So you have an overpayment sa BIR. So pwede mo itong i-credit na lang or i-refund. We'll discuss that part sa ibang time. I'll give you a copy na lang class nitong may solution. Ha? Medyo binilisan ko siya. Okay? After our discussion. Installment payments, sabi ng tax code, pag sumobra daw ng 2,000 yung tax due mo, you can pay in 2 equal installments. Ayan, ito yung due dates niya. But there's nothing to emphasize here. No? Okay? Just some rules. For married individual, the computation of their income tax is separately. But if you cannot identify kung magkano separately, then the division is equal between the spouses. Okay, so that's the end of module number 3. No? So I guess we're okay. Do you have some questions? After ng class natin, I'll send you yung merong solutions ng modules 2 and 3. Okay? Modules 2 and 3. So you can still review. No? So any questions? Before we dismiss, and after, I think, 30 minutes, you'll take your prelim exam. I'll send you the link to Google Forms.
Ay, hindi na po tayo mag-meet, sir, habang nag-prelims.
Hindi na.
Okay.
Do you do that? Na nag-meet kayo? Naka-on lang siya, kumbaga, ganun.
Po,
Sa ibang subject nyo, ginagawa nyo yun?
naka-open lang po yung Google Form pero hindi na po kami nakamit.
Okay.
Offline na po.
Hindi na tayo mag-meet. Google Form na lang.
Hanggang anong oras po, sir, naka-open yung Google Forms?
Hanggang 10:30. Short exam lang naman.
Sige po, thank you
30
po.
items na prepare. And I think, let me check, para hindi na kayo mahirapan mag-review. I'm not mistaken, all are theory questions only. Meron palang computation, pero basic lang naman. Isa lang. Isang computation lang. The rest of the items are theoretical. No more questions? Okay, so let's have our class pictures now before we dismiss. So please turn on your cameras.